Hello everyone, and welcome to the first motorcycle review on the Shooting Cars YouTube channel. My name is Matt, and today we're going to be reviewing my personal 2015 Kawasaki Z1000. Beneath me is a 1000cc engine. It is not the same engine that is used in the popular ZX10R, but it is very similar. This engine actually has slightly more displacement and a slightly different tune to allow for more torque on the low end, which is why it also has a much lower redline at about 11,000. This bike specifically has a CS Racing exhaust. They're a small company out of Brazil. This bike has an ECU tune done to it that removed some of the factory limiters, like first gear, secondary butterflies in the intake, open at a much lower RPM, closer to where they do in second and all gears above that. So it has a ridiculous amount of power down low. Coupled with the exhaust, it is a blast to ride. 6-speed transmission. It's a very short ratio transmission. Not quite as short as you'd see on a Super Sport, but definitely more geared for around the town, because being that this is a street fighter, naked bike, whatever you'd like to classify it as, it's awful on the highway. There's really no protection from the wind. There's not a lot of aerodynamics to help reduce wind from hitting you. So once you're up over 60 miles an hour, it's a bear to ride. You really need to have a firm grip on the bars, because this thing will get blown around. So I personally prefer this thing, or some more of an around town bike. I installed a set of ASV brake and clutch levers, shorty, also collapsible, just on the off chance that I drop this thing. Hopefully I never do. I also installed flush mount turn signals in the front, and funnily enough, even though this does not share the same engine as the ZX10R, it does share the tail light. So this has had a integrated tail light from a ZX10R installed into it, so I was able to get rid of the external turn signals that, as I'm sure everybody knows, looks gross. I also did a fender eliminator to also eliminate the grossness of a fender in the back. This bike also does have factory green paint and a purple wrap that I installed myself. It was done about close to 6 years ago now, and has held up incredibly well due to the fact that this bike is garage kept. I don't feel like that's actually necessary information, but this one doesn't have any sort of fancy suspension like you'd see on some other bikes. It does have Showa forks. They're not top of the line, but they are of good quality. It does have a no-name shock in the rear. It fails the big friggin' bottle test because it doesn't have a cup holder. This bike is equipped with anti-lock braking. I have experienced it. It is a weird feeling if you've never felt ABS on a motorcycle. It does have a check engine light, luckily. I've never once seen it on. It has passing lights, so I have a quick way to flash the brights to just make somebody aware that I'm behind them. This does have a really cool tachometer setup. The LCD on the bottom only shows 0 to about 3,500 RPM, and then it takes over at the top and goes from 4 to 11.5, which is redline. It also does have a fuel gauge, digital speedometer. In the menus, we have coolant temperature, trip A, trip B, the usual stuff, and a clock. Oh, I forgot about the clock. There also is a little eco indicator. I believe it's tied, and miles per gallon. 36. Currently averaging 32.1, not too bad. But yeah, so this does have an eco indicator that I believe is just tied directly to throttle position. Jesus, that's so fast. Because yeah, I don't know if it actually does anything, but considering the size of the bike, it doesn't get the greatest mileage. That is tied partially to the tune, partially to having no fairing. city driving, all of these things add up to a mediocre fuel economy considering. But overall, the bike is still an incredible amount of fun. It's the only thing I've ever bought new, and I will hopefully never have to get rid of it.